Welcome back, guys. Happy Friday. Hope everyone has a good weekend. We're going to get into the stock charts. I'm going to go ahead and go through some of these things that are taking place. And we're going to start off here with the S&P 500 weekly chart. Because it's Friday, we're closing out the week. So I think it's important to understand how weekly candlesticks close. The weekly chart, for anybody that doesn't realize, really sets in motion the larger trend. It typically is going to be like a big barge that once it's moving in one direction, it doesn't just turn around instantly. So something to look for. Let's get into it. Give me a thumbs up. I do appreciate that. All right, here we go. So this weekly chart here on the S&P 500, the thing that is most notable is basically this resistance line right here at 323.20. And on the daily, that's that island cluster reversal area. But you can see the weekly, it started to overshoot and then has since closed back below. So if we close the week down, back within this range, then that's a false breakout on the weekly. We also have this gap right here that the week, intro week, started to creep up into the gap and it has since failed. So if we close down here, this is a shooting star doji. If today closes down around this range, maybe down towards the bottom, that's a shooting star doji. And now what you look for is confirmation, a confirming week. And maybe that sets up for Apple and Amazon earnings to miss, or one of those to miss, and sets up a negative week next week, giving you a confirming week. And at that point, we would have a reversal candle. We'd have a confirming week, and that would set in the motion most likely that this was a bear market rally and this was the top of this rally. So we don't have that on the chart today. I'm just trying to anticipate what might happen moving forward. Going into the daily chart here, you can see that this is your island cluster reversal right here. And we negated it because we basically took it out, but we've since started to sell off and recover back within that island top reversal or island cluster reversal pattern. So it doesn't mean that I'm going to trade this pattern anymore because it was negated. So I'm not going to use it as a barometer, but I think it's worth noting that, if everyone saw this island reversal, and by running it all the way up over here and negating it, it really did trick anybody who was short on this island reversal. So if that's what this was meant to do, I think it was successful. And now the market's free to roll over and sell off. So something to watch for. Let's go down to the hourly. And the hourly, you can see, really just shows that in a little bit clearer, a nice breakout here, but that was a false breakout. And at this point in time, it was, because you broke out above, but then has since recovered back below. So now it looks like we're heading down to the bottom of the range. 312.15, I think, is really the near-term target for the S&P 500. And then we'll watch where it goes from there. All right, Qs. This has really been where the action's been at this week. The Qs has been selling off. And tech has been selling off, so we'll spend a little more time here. We'll start with the weekly. So here on the weekly, here's what I think is just most notable on the weekly. What stands out to me is, as I roll out on the weekly chart, we've got this clear price channel in the Qs that's been in play for basically since 2009, and we have this resistance line that's marks the top of the channel. And as I roll up, you can see lots of reaction, and we overshot it right here. And so if we close the week, we would need some, we need to get down to 252.17. But if there's some more selling today and we close the week back below, then that sets this up on the weekly as a false breakout as well. So that would set the price action to be a move over the next, weeks to months, to the bottom of the channel down here. So big move if that happens, from where we're at now. And by the time we realize it closed back within the channel, it'd be about a 13 to 15% move, depending on when we get there. So that's really all that I see on the weekly. Let's flip to the daily. Daily, we've got a little bit more going on. So here is your support line on the daily that Qs has been in. And you can see we've started to break down. We came down and tagged that support line. That's what I was saying I thought was the highest probability on Monday. I thought we were going to come down and at least tag the support line, but we're under, we're basically trading right on it as of right now. And if the day closes down, potentially all the way down around 252, that would be a break of this daily support. And then that would be a false breakout on the weekly. So very bearish if that's what happens by the end of today. We'll have to wait and see for the close. Going to the hourly, you can see that we came down, undercut support right here, recovered it, but now we're just back on it, just kind of trading right on support. So we'll see what happens. Does the market want to roll over here, or does it want to hold the support going into the weekend? We'll have to wait and see on the hourly. Flipping over to the Nasdaq futures, you can see we've got resistance on the futures. You can just mark these out. This is the hourly chart. 10,507 about, and then on the bottom end I've got about 10,336. We get those, you can see, you can pretty much mark that out there, and then this one just comes all the way back in this cluster support. So they're ranges, they're not exact, but basically this is the range we're in. So you can see we tagged support, ran up, hit resistance, overshot it a little bit, but have since recovered and I'm selling off. So that looks like it's going to hold as resistance, and we're going to continue to move lower. Let's look at IWM. I don't look at this one that often, but it's a good one to kind of watch. So we'll start out with the weekly here. So the weekly, here's what I see. I've got some old markups from past trades. Let me see here. We've got, all right, there's my trend line. Big major support right here at about 145.20 on the weekly. You can see that even if I roll it back, this was the support for quite a while. And this is the Fed saving that support back when they did their, when they started back in 2018, when they started cutting rates. And then again, the Fed, then we crashed during the pandemic. And this is a kickback rally. We're slightly above it as of right now, but we'll see where the week closes. If the week can't make it and close above this 145.20, then we're back at resistance and we should head lower. So that's really what I see in IWM. Let's look at the dollar here. Since I've been covering the dollar all week, I think we'll go ahead and look at the weekly chart. So here's something that is changing. The dollar looks like it's due for a major breakdown this week. So this is a weekly chart. Here's your major support. You can see we've just walked this support line ever since 2011. So almost 10 years, this support line has held. And that coincides with the bull market we've been in for the last 10 years. But now the dollar, if it's going to close, here's your weekly candle right here. So if the dollar closes below this support line, that's the first weekly close in over 10 years below this support line that's been in play. So that's pretty weak for the dollar. The dollar looks like it wants to continue to sell off. And that might be an economic play, that the economy is getting weaker and the dollar's getting weaker with it. Here's XLV on the weekly. So this is the second heaviest weighted sector in the S&P 500, right behind tech. And you can see on the weekly, we overshot this resistance right here, but we've closed back below. And you can see the little wick where it's the overshoot. You like to see those overshoots and then it close back below, because those are the fake out moves. That's the trading that traps people in the breakout. So that's what you're looking for. Moving to a daily, you can see here, overshot it just briefly, but couldn't close above it really. We closed one day above it right here on the daily. The next day it started to move higher, but impulsively rejected and sold back down. And we're getting confirmation today. So that looks good for a false breakout, and that's what that is. Looks like that's going to set us in motion to trade down to the bottom of the support line around 97. XLF, let's look at the weekly. All right, so XLF has just been walking this trend line here on the weekly. It's held it. So far, we're above it. Looks like we had a false breakdown on the weekly. They recovered that. So XLF looks like it's holding strength, I guess. But it's at support. The thing that I don't like about XLF, look at these weekly candles throughout this entire rally here. You can see how big these weeks are. The things moving around. Over the last 4 weeks, XLF has just been grinding right on support. So yes, it is moving up support, but it's just barely able to hold that support. That doesn't seem bullish to me, although yes, still above trend, so nothing to do here, no sell signals. But look for a big breakdown if it could come, and that would be a sell signal in the XLF. Let's look at the daily just to get the finer tuned picture, and here you go. As you can see how it's just grinding along this support line. I don't think we're going to get the breakdown today. It'll probably come with the breakdown in tech, but we just have to continue to watch that. And here's XLK. We'll go to the weekly here. XLK, you can see we've been walking this support line right here. This week, though, we're below it. We've broken the support line on the weekly chart. And if you go to the daily, I can move my trend line on the weekly, but if you look at the daily, here's your clean support on the daily chart. We've just been walking up this support line, and here's a breakdown. We've broken down below this support. So if this closes, then that's a breakdown in tech. That's a breakdown in XLK. And the reason why QQQ, as I flip back here, hasn't quite broken down, that comes down to Amazon. Because QQQ is basically XLK plus Amazon. And if you look at Amazon, it is holding its support line. So here's Amazon. We'll get right into these fangs. Look at the weekly. Held support so far, above support, nothing bearish at the moment. So we're still above the trend, and we're holding support. So moving to the daily here, same thing. We came right down to support, tagged it, and bounced off of it. Now, what happens from here? Is this just going to hold and we're going to continue to move higher, or do we break? We're at support or right slightly above it. So there's no sell signal. It's just something to watch. The rest of tech looks like it's breaking down. So Amazon reports next week, and if they come out negative, that's going to be your breakdown. Probably going to come in the form of a big gap down. Here is Apple, and you can see Apple. We'll go to the weekly. Apple's just been moving higher pretty impulsively, and you can kind of mark it out something like this. It's not the cleanest on the weekly, but a clear breakdown right here on the weekly chart. So that's a big breakdown on the weekly. If this closes down here, then that's going to be your break and your weekly sell signal. So when you start to get these weekly sell signals, breakdowns of weekly trends, those usually are bigger picture trends, big trend reversals, and it will set in motion the next trend, which looks to be down. Here's the daily. You can see, let me get rid of this weekly here. Daily, we've just been walking up this trend line here. Clear breakdown right here. I don't think it's going to recover today, so I think we're going to have a breakdown in the daily. Unless they do some sort of pump news today and Apple spikes, we're probably going to break down on the daily. Moving to the hourly, you can see just pretty weak. Nice big impulsive sell-off. Now we got earnings next week, so earnings might come out good, might be bad. I don't know. If it's good, they'll probably spike this thing all the way back up to resistance right up here. That's your objective area to be short or to get short. And if it's bad, you're going to get a gap down and more damage to, bigger damage will take place across the entire tech sector and the stock market if that happens. Microsoft, here's the weekly, and you've got, breakdown right here in this weekly support. We have more major support on Microsoft right down here at, down a ways. So 153. So it looks to me like Microsoft on this weekly chart wants to roll back down and tag the support line. I think we're going to get there over the next few weeks. Let's look at the daily. Clean breakdown of the daily right here, although not that impulsive, not a big breakdown. So we'll see if the selling accelerates today or if it's going to just hold in this range or even recover support. Anything can happen. The day is still young. Let's look at the hourly just to narrow this one down. You can see they're starting to buy it up a little bit. So we'll see. The gap's been filled. We gapped that down this morning, and here's your gap fill. So we filled the gap, and now we're starting to roll over a little bit. So we'll watch this to see if this continues weakness. If this closes the day weak, that sets Microsoft up for daily trend breaks and weekly trend breaks. and that sets this thing up for continued downward pressure. And Google real quick, nothing to cover too much right here. Google's above support, sitting at 1484, and there's just nothing to besides that, just above support. So we'll look for well, never mind this trend line that I marked out. That was just a hypothetical. Google's just above support, so we need to wait for probably earnings to see what this thing wants to do over the next trend. Okay, Intel, they reported they got taken out behind the woodshed today, but as you roll out, you can see what's going on. Here's your weekly chart, and I think this is why it's so important to really kind of take your larger time frame and then move in. Here's your weekly time frame. Here's your support line right here running up, and you can see today, even with bad earnings, they basically opened right at support, sold off a little, came right down to support, and have since held. So support on the weekly is still intact. And you need to see this break to set this stock in motion for a larger downtrend. At this point, you could even go long this around 49.24 or, somewhere in the area for a bounce or for, even a continuation of this trend. So that's just that one right there. All right. Now let's get into some trade ideas. I'll just run through some single stocks. Now, it is earnings season, so understand that there's kind of an elevated level of risk, I suppose, in individual stocks. And so you can have earnings just go against you or they can gap up on you or gap down in your favor, depending on whether you're long or short. So just keep that in mind. All right, Tesla. Let's start out with the weekly because we are looking at kind of the end of the week. I don't see anything weekly here. There's nothing weekly that tells me that this is the end of the run on the weekly chart. Now, you could make the argument that this was your weekly trend line. If I tighten it up right about there, could make the argument that this was your trend line. We broke that and then did a full back test, and now we're going to sell off. But not enough information from my perspective to confirm that. If we go to the daily, now the daily, you do have this price right here and we're gapping below it. So potentially this is the, kind of a plateau area where we're going to now gap lower. But, the price action today isn't that bearish. Yeah, it's down 5%, but it was down a lot more and it's starting to recover a little bit. So go to the hourly now. You can see this could easily run up and fill the gap today. We could even run up to this 1550. Just not enough of a breakdown on the hourly chart. It was a gap down, but could easily recover it. So I just don't see enough here to justify a position one way or the other as of right now. Run through a couple trade ideas. So I've got a short on this one. Took this short on the back test right here. So this one on the hourly, you can see nice uptrend right there. We broke down. There's your sell signal. Back test. You could add to your short there and rolling over. So getting all the confirming action that you'd want to see for a short here. Broken trend, failed back, a complete back test and a resumption of the trend. This is set in motion to go lower. 410, I think, is my first profit target, but we're going to watch this. This could be a lot larger of a trade. Here's the weekly chart, and you can see nice clean breakdown or nice clean uptrend on the weekly. Nice outside day bullish engulfing reversal candle on the weekly, and some confirming price action. Not that impulsive, but another selling week. As long as it closes down here or even lower, that's confirming that this was a reversal candle, and we should see lower prices in Adobe. Let's look at Netflix, and then I'll wrap up. Netflix. So start off with the weekly. Here's your uptrend line on Netflix. You can see a nice kind of blow off top. Big selling day, but not a reversal candle on the weekly. Still basically, was within trend on this weekly one. But now you can see we're just starting to break down on this weekly candle. Not impulsively, so we're just below it. Not enough on the weekly to confirm, but we'll see how this candle closes out at the end of today. Going to the daily, you can see just, this is going back to the March lows uptrend line here, starting to break down. But again, not impulsively broken down, just kind of hanging out below it. So if they might be able to do a stick save where they, at the end of the day, ramp it up and close it back above support, you have to wait for the daily close in order to get confirmation that this was a breakdown. Going to the hourly, you can see we're just barely below it. We broke down, ran up and tested it as resistance, and we're starting to reject. We need to see nice, nice red candles down in order to confirm that this was a breakdown. And it's happening on a Friday right before big earnings. Well, this one broke down yesterday, but again, just the last 2 days of the week, not that impulsive. So, in my mind, it's not believable enough to say that it's a big breakdown. And again, look at volume. Here's the daily. Look at the volume. Weak volume. So again, I don't trust any move, a breakdown or a breakout, on weak volume. It's not non-confirming volume. So that's one thing to look at. When you don't have volume confirming the breakdown, it's non-consensus. So I think we'll probably have to wait till next week, till Apple and Amazon to report, and that should do it in terms of kind of sealing the deal where the market's going to go next. I think after Apple and Amazon report, maybe the day after or so, we'll start to understand what the market wants to do for the next, probably 10%, whether that's up or down. Okay, guys, good luck. That's what I got for today and the end of the week. If anything crazy happens or there's, anything I'm looking at over the weekend, I'll put out a video tomorrow. Otherwise, catch you guys on Monday. Bye.